I'm Kevin Price. This is The Price of Business. Glad to have you here with us today on Tuesday. You know, we have an ongoing series of media articles, audio, you name it. Frank Granett, who's a pharmacist by profession, and myself, we're calling it the price of the ADHD business. And it is a business. It's kind of alarming, and we want people to really think about what they're doing when it comes to mental health. And Frank and I have been doing this, getting some great articles and interviews in. Frank, tell us about the guest you got for us today.
Today, Kevin, a great guest. Her name is Mauren Morel. She's a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Florida, as well as a substance abuse professional. And, you know, during the past few segments, Kevin, we've been talking about physiological and nutritional risk factors for ADHD as well as behavioral challenges. But today we're going right after the front line and going after behavioral therapy, if you will, talk therapy. And we're fortunate to have Mauren with us today. She's appeared on it's a popular daily morning TV show, Desperata America, and it's transmitted Univision network nationwide as well as worldwide. And Mauren Morel, great to have you on our program today.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you on. Real quickly, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I've been very passionate about ADHD because not only I work with this population, but also at one point, my son was misdiagnosed with ADHD, and I had to fight this doctor really hard because the first instinct was he needs medication.
Yeah, that's the kind of the knee-jerk reaction, no question about it. Frank, your question?
Yeah, you know what, Morel? You know, Miss Morel, you know, the thing is we have over 12 million children and young adults taking some form of psychoactive medication in our country right now. And you're on the front lines, and in our past episodes that Kevin and I have been talking with professionals, what are you seeing as far as the effectiveness of the medication? And, you know, medication, we're not discrediting the medication, it's just that premature use. What are you seeing on the front lines that, you know, is alarming or is not alarming? What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is that, yes, medication can work for some children, but we need to try behavior first. Because medication will help me calm down, but it's not going to teach me how to self-regulate. And that's some of the issues that I have when you're attempting to medicate young children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of this can be altered just by behavioral changes. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. You know, first of all, when you go in for the interview, I'm not only relying from the parent's perspective. I need to see how the child is doing at school and where is the problem. Because sometimes lack of parenting skills can be a problem. And when I, go out and tell the parent, your child is not ADHD, we may be having a parenting issue, then the parent doesn't like to hear that. Mm-hmm. Because it's putting a little bit of pressure on the parent. So
Mauren, can you relate that percentile? I mean, if you had to break it down, I know you can't get exact percentile of all the people that you counsel day to day. I mean, what would you say the percentage is that, medication is not the right course for this particular patient?
I've worked with the emotional behavioral disabilities children in one of the largest, school districts in the nation, which is Miami-Dade County. I would say that we were very successful in about 10%, just a rough estimate, because we would target behavior first. We would put kids on a structure, make them feel safe. Structure is good for them, and teach them skills and strategies, to be more engaged in the studies and try to find out also, if he's successful in this subject and not in this subject, then what are we working with here? So it's also a lot of educational strategies and working very closely with the teachers who unfortunately want to medicate the kids because they don't want to deal with the disruption that happens in a classroom environment when you have an ADHD child, which can be very disruptive.
Now, are you seeing that across the board, like, because you're international now, other countries that you deal with, is that correct?
Yes. Deal with a lot of clients from Latin America, especially the Dominican Republic. So we're seeing a prevalence, back in the day, kids were kids and they were hyper, and boys were, had a tendency to be more active than girls. But when you have a child that is truly ADHD, the child is ADHD because they don't stop.
I do want to ask you real quickly, what is your website, by the way?
Oh, thecorecenters.com.
Yeah, and also, Frank, your website and a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, Kevin. Coalition Against Over-Medicating Our Youth, that's CAOOY.org. And basically what Mauren is doing is our intervention with environmental risk factors. And what we're doing is helping parents and educators understand there is an action plan that we discuss fully that helps people get from point A to point B in the positive behavioral pathway. And it's a very tricky pathway to go down, but when you do the action plan that we talk about, it is possible. And Mauren, we appreciate the work that you're doing in our country as well as in other countries as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. One more question, Frank, before I wrap it up.
Yeah, you know what, Mauren? You know, you have the program that you're on, the clinical behavior. You're a clinical behavioral expert on that daily TV show.
Yes.
Can you explain one of the positive kind of takeaway messages that you do on that program?
It's give parents the power to make informed decisions. You know, most of the time, sometimes parents go to the doctors and they don't know how to ask questions, and they take that final word. And I always empower them. I, make them write questions down and give them that authority that they have to be involved in deciding what's the best course of treatment for kids. Because on the other side, I've seen kids become lazy. Parents do everything for them because they have learned to be ADHD when they have been misdiagnosed.
They end up getting. They ended up having incentives to have the behaviors that put them on meds in the first place. It gets really pretty ugly after a while. It
is. And on the other hand, what I tell parents, if you have an ADHD child and we don't do anything on that perspective, when he becomes an adolescent, that's a risk potential for, substance abuse.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And sometimes there's other things that are involved that leads to misdiagnosis. And so most people, I would, from what I've read, most people who end up with addiction issues usually have a dull diagnosis.
Absolutely.
And some of that is fueled by misdiagnosis in the front end.
Absolutely. When we don't provide ADHD children with the right educational environment, we set them up for failure. The dropout from school rates, they increase. And then in the end, that's just another risk factor, that we need to take into consideration.
Yeah, very good. Thanks to both of you, Frank Granett and Mauren Morel. Great interviews today. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Mauren.
All right, much more for you. We'll have Frank on again soon, always do. You're listening to The Price of Business.